Please be seated. All praise and thanks to the Most High Jehovah. Thank you, Alicia, Andre, Big Boy. Much respect to y'all. Thank you, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This is definitely an honor. I don't want to take up too much time, but I would just like to say this. When I first started out in this music industry, I was most concerned with freedom. Freedom to produce, freedom to play all the instruments on my records, freedom to say anything I wanted to. And after much negotiation, Warner Brothers Records granted me that freedom, and I thank them for that. Without any real spiritual mentors other than artists whose records I admired, Larry Graham being one of them, I embarked on a journey more fascinating than I could have ever imagined. But a word to the wise: without real spiritual mentoring, too much freedom can lead to the soul's decay. And a word to the young artists: a real friend or mentor is not on your payroll. A real friend and mentor cares for your soul as much as they do their own. This world and its wicked system will become harder and harder to deal with without a real friend and a mentor. And I wish all of you the best on this fascinating journey. It ain't over.
Yeah, from the 5 to the 6, we be in the mix with that rare candy paint job on the whip. I need food for the kids, money for the rent. Fuck a lockdown, baby, I can't do that shit. And I don't never vote, cause I'm fucking broke. And either way, I know the police ain't gon' leave me alone. On a plane by the visit Glen Rock, need crypto told me I should bring the Glock with me. So I packed up my piece and I'm sliding. Cause we might get caught up in a riot. Middle finger Trump, middle finger Biden. Fuck a left, fuck a right, is you riding? Know you love to see it, dudes rocking. Ain't no politics, baby, we just talking. From the birds to the bricks, we be in the mix with that rare candy paint job on the whip. Who you with?
I'm nervous. Covering one of the all-time great things. No, not a person, not a place. It's definitely a noun, but a thing. I mean, this is an entity that we're covering here. I've going through all these YouTube videos, and when you see him talking, you're just like, this is a person. You know what I mean? Like, this is a guy that like made all these songs, and nothing ever seems natural to him except making music, which seems painfully natural. Like, so it makes you question everything you do. You're like, why don't I ever look this cool doing anything? But like anything else, like I swear, it's like supermarket trips are probably awkward. Everything about this guy, but he did what he was meant to do. It ended short. It's still sad to think about how it ended and when it ended, but nonetheless, we are covering Prince Rogers Nelson, the artist formerly known as Prince, love symbol, and then Prince. Yeah, I mean, he had a few names, but we're covering him, and we have some help. And this has been one of the longest planned Rare Candy episodes ever. Like
2.5 years.
Like I said, even before we recruited guests, it was going around for months and months and months. But it's a white whale. It's scary. It's
we never felt ready.
It's quite scary, and I'm still not ready. We got a couple more days before part 2 that I got to cram. But tonight we are covering Prince. From his birth up until 1987, Sign of the Times. The second half will be on Substack, so if you'll want to be on that feed. But look, if you don't want to spend money on us, look, I won't get offended. We do have a free trial. So if you're like, I got to hear the second half of that episode, but otherwise I hate these guys' guts. I guess that's for you. But rarecandy.substack.com. That's where all our paid episodes are. This is half and half. But we have returning guests. We have Eben. Eben is Bainbridge Island superstar. We haven't talked music with him before, and I'm really excited about this, Eben.
Yeah, super excited to talk music. We just haven't gotten into the topic.
We haven't. Yeah, we haven't. We've spent our time talking about time traveling and westerns. You know, it is what it is.
Ormus, mushrooms.
Yeah.
Fucking.
Right.
It's all interconnected, though. So.
It is.
But we have a new friend. And I didn't ask what to call him. I'm gonna say what's on the screen. I'm gonna say just Thomas. Is Thomas okay?
Yeah.
we have Thomas. Thomas, who are you, man? Because you jumped at this. You're like, I'm Prince is my guy.
Yeah.
So I love. I've known of you. You're a Twitter user and a pseudo anon on there, but like I don't know much about you before all this. So I like, who are you? Are you a musician? Do you do say whatever you feel comfortable saying?
Yeah, man. I've been a musician for I've been playing drums and guitar for about 15 years now. I write songs. I've recorded a handful of albums on different instruments. And like I actually was not a big Prince guy for a long time, and then I started listening to like the first couple albums, and then like I just went like deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole, and like I just found that the deeper I dug, the more shit I found. Like I just kept finding like interesting stuff, and I just like kept wanting to dig even more into it. And then I think Glenn, you posted something about like music episodes you wanted to do, and I was like, yo, let me do a Prince episode. But yeah, I'm a big Rare Candy fan. Happy to be here. It's a great honor to be a part of this project.
Excellent. No, it's what you said is completely true. I didn't have my Prince moment until just before he died. My moment where it was like the whole cat where I realized you accept him as like, oh yeah, he's amazing. Like everybody, it's just a thing. Everybody knows he's great.
Right.
You'd have to be super contrarian to be like, actually, none of it's good. But like when right before he died, 2014, 2015, I just did a deep dive, everything. And I was like, oh my God, like not only is this guy great, he's like Mozart level good. Like it's real, truly that type of musician. Like when you think about it. So, Sai, we've talked Prince. We've mentioned him millions of times on this podcast, but like, what is your history with Prince?
Yeah, I think, I don't want to make it seem like I got in super early because there were waves, but my first Prince was probably 12, 13 years old.
Yeah.
My guitar teacher made a little mixtape for me to start studying some shit.
Sick.
And there were some 1999 tracks on there, which is still my favorite Prince album of all time. I have to say, after re-listening, that is still true. And yeah, I was just struck by because my guitar teacher was trying to show me it was about like funk chords and how tight they can be and how tight of a window. I'm sure you understand, Thomas.
Yeah, totally.
And I was just like, this dude is on another fucking level. And then there was Lady Cab Driver was my favorite track. And then I'm like 12 years old and I'm hearing the breakdown where he's beating the shit out of the cab driver in the car. And I'm just like, what? I'm just like, this is like, who is this guy? And it's like,
trip, dude.
Just on his album, like just this, it's fucking incredible. And so I that really stuck me with it. And then as I got older, I was like, oh, he never stopped and he never fell off. And that was kind of just like Glenn, where you do the deep dive in the whole catalog. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful man for sure.
So yeah, exactly. I have an aunt, my mom's sister, who is a Prince super fan, has been since probably the Controversy days, I would say, or even Dirty Mind, which is a wild way for a young lady to get into Prince, but especially when you she didn't marry actually, you know what? Her first husband looked like Prince. That's a trip. He was just like really racially ambiguous, but like I think he was like Mexican kind of, but like Prince could have passed as Mexican back in the day, so he like kind of, but she was into it. And she's not nerdy. She's just real, like just normie, just like turbo normie, like watches like, The Boys on Amazon. Like that's like her and like just TV watcher or whatever, but she was always super into Prince. And like my mom, she always thought he was kind of pretentious. She's like, obviously there's undeniably good stuff, but look, when the name change, all those things, it always seems to rub some people the wrong way. And my aunt was like, stayed into it. But I remember, I think she ran into him in Vegas once and was just like, holy shit. This is like the craziest thing. Like just seeing him, it was like an aura, like just like or even an orb in a sense. Like just having this like light in and he doesn't even want to be seen by you half the time. Like that's the crazy part, unless he's on a stage. And but I remember texting her the day that he passed, and she was just like, "Oh man, like this is just bad that this happened." I don't think she was still into his like new music at all, but she, always listened to him constantly. And I do love to picture her in 1982 buying Dirty Mind, like with that cover. It's just a real like kind of squarish kind of girl buying a buying Dirty Mind and just being like, oh yeah, I'll have one Dirty Mind, please, and then walking out like a man buying porn at a store. I love the idea of that. And
That's incredible. Him tied to the bed spring, or not tied, but I'm thinking of Rambo when he was tied to the bed spring. But in the cover, he's tied. He's like in front of the bed springs or whatever.
Right, exactly. And it's just for me, like, I just find him amazing. I find him and David Bowie to be versions of each other, essentially. Like Prince being much more of a musical virtuoso than Bowie ever could be, but like just culturally, Bowie never stopped and still was great till the end. And they both died in the same year. It's nuts. They both died in 2016. That was a wild year, for many reasons. But I just think he's kind of the Michael Jackson for me, and we'll talk about, Prince versus Michael Jackson. But to me, that's like when people just get obsessed over like Michael Jackson, that's how I am with Prince. It's just everything about him is just so cool.
For me, it's Prince all the way too.
It's no hate. It's no hate.
No.
They're both amazing. Like,
yes, sir.
We're going to get you right back to the episode, but I just wanted to let you guys know of a few other things we offer at Rare Candy Industries. We have a Substack with free and paid subscription options. Free subscribers get access to all written content. That includes Bob's Red Pill. That's the best thing going on the internet right now. Trust me. Paid subscribers get full access to our premium episode feed. And that's just every episode we don't necessarily want to share with the general public, if you know what I'm saying. Again, that's rarecandy.substack.com. We also have merch. That link's a little long for me to say right now, but go to the description, go to our merch store, and find a shirt that's right for you. We have Rare Candy shirts, Dr. Bronner soap label shirts, Rishi mushroom shirts, all types of stuff there. Check it out. There's got to be something for you. And lastly, check us out on social media. On Instagram, we're Rare Candy Pod, but on Twitter, we're at Rare Candy Pod 1. All right, enough of that. Let's get you back into the episode.
Can I jump in with my first Prince experience?
I would love to hear it. Yeah, dude, I would love to hear it.
Because this memory is clear as day from when I was like, probably like Sai said, like 11, maybe 10, 11.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
I'm walking down the street with this friend of mine who was like 2 or 3 years older. So he was like cool guy, like a little bit older. Yeah. And I'm an old head for those who don't know. So I grew up in the Walkman days. And he had a Walkman. And he had a Walkman that had a radio on it.
Nice.
So like I had no Walkman. He's walking around with a Walkman on, and I'll never forget. He stopped and took his headphones off, like the little foam headphones. And he's like, "Dude, listen to this." And it was When Doves Cry. It was on the radio, and I'd never heard Prince before. I'm 11, and it was right. I mean, I'll never forget the way the street looked, and him saying, maybe I'm just like my mother, and I'm like, what, like. Yeah. What, like, I remember the lyrics were so clear, and I was like, what is he talking about? Like, this is, and then that little 3-note thing comes in, and like Sai was talking about space, and like, what's happening here? Like, dun, dun, dun. Like, how can those 3 notes be so powerful?
Yeah. No bass.
I'd never heard
that's
anything
the craziest
like
part.
And then he entered my consciousness, and like shortly afterwards, there was a record store that had like a street-facing windows. Mm-hmm. With a huge poster, like bigger than life size, of that cover of the second album, Prince album, just his face.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing that, and they're like, okay, that's the dude that I heard on my friend's Walkman, and it was like, wow, okay. And I had just a feeling of like music that is more like adult, like I don't know how to explain it. Like, okay, like one day I'm going to be an adult and I'm going to understand.
Mm-hmm.
What this music?
You're
I don't
not
quite
done
get
with
it yet.
Yeah, you're not done with it yet. You're
Someday
gonna grow with it. You're gonna grow with it.
Didn't you felt that even when you were that young? Like you could see that this was going to be like a thing you were going to like continue to rediscover. Like even
for sure. The two things. The one thing was "Smooth Operator" by Sade. When I heard that, I had the same feeling.
Wow.
Like I don't quite understand this, but I'm gonna get it one day. And then the other one was that just hearing that little bit of Prince on the radio on my friend's headphones. Like,
right, and that's amazing. Now let's just talk about Prince himself. His childhood is, which to be honest, I didn't know how bad it was. His childhood, it was quite bad, like quite awful. It was definitely like, it's like if like a really sadistic director made his own version of Footloose. You know, like where like super conservative parents, like I mean, talking Jehovah's Witness or Seventh-day Adventist, I should say, parents, both. I don't want to call them failed musicians, but they didn't do that for a living. They tried to, which is where you see the talent come from. I get the understanding that both of them were extremely talented,
Sure.
but it just never worked out.
Hmm.
And Prince was born, had some complications. I think he had the umbilical cord tied around his neck, and then he developed epilepsy. Now his family was extremely religious, and in church he would have seizures in church, which that meant like possession. Like
Oh,
people would say like, hey, like I think your son is like possessed by Satan, and like the mom was like, nah, like the doctor said this, like I know what it is, but she's like, you're making me look bad, and he had that guilt and that shame is put in there. And so his father always, you know, saw him taking to music early, but I think his father was like jealous of him at an early age for being just a virtuoso. And his father, you know, I mean, this is like what When Doves Cry is about, by the way. And
really? Okay.
yeah, and so it's and like that whole like kind of domestic violence thing in Purple Rain, kind of. So he ends up Prince ends up getting kicked out for messing around with a girl while he's a teenager. He gets kicked out. I think he was like 13 when it happened. And he's like in the yellow pages, like trying to find work and stuff. And he eventually I think gets back into his house or whatever, but his parents are split up at that point. His mom's boyfriend takes him to see James Brown. And James Brown, of course, for him was like Eben listening to When Doves Cry on his friend's Walkman times a million. Yeah. Right? You're seeing James Brown in the 70s, and you're just like, oh, or no, or like really like 1970, and you're just thinking like, oh man, this is, you know, for him, the way he moved on stage was just so James Brown, you know, with his own flair. So you see that being planted in there. But his mom reportedly sexualized him from an early age. I don't know how bad it got. I imagine we're only told part of it, but she kind of thought he was a feminine child, and I don't think she was of the right mind either. She would show him like pornography and stuff like that when he was like 10 years old and stuff, to be like, are you gay? Like, which again, you hear these lyrics in his song, like these are all popping up, right? Like, I don't want to ever project what he was and what's real and what's not, but like this is all stuff that I'm learning, you know, stuff right now. So you know, that's where you get that crazy, like, kind of, I mean, you hear in his early songs, he has that like ultra kiddish voice. He is young, but it's like that is a common amongst kids who get kind of traumatized at an early age. Michael Jackson in the same concept. Like, it's very, I'm just saying this, I don't want to focus too much on his childhood, but it's just, you know, even you guys might not have known some of that. It's kind of a few doors unlock in your head a little bit. You learn that it's not just he was a, you know, child prodigy guy, and, you know, it was that, but he, you know, basically looked in the yellow pages trying to get a job and just said, I don't want to do anything except music. Literally. Yeah. I don't want to do any of that. So he would go to his friend's house and learn every instrument. Like, his friend had like just a band set up in his garage. And he's a Minnesota guy, by the way. So this is all happening in Minneapolis. And he's jamming, he's playing the drums, the keys, which I laugh, because if I did that, I'm going to maybe be competent at best. I'm not going to become Prince. Like, there's just a certain thing, like, where it's like, that was always there, you know, that talent, which you get from your parents. And he was jamming. And then by the time he was 16, he was just calling all these like managers and like local Minneapolis people. It's like, hey, I'm tight, man. I don't care. Like, I got something for you guys. Which eventually we work our way. At the same time, I think you have like Jimmy Jam and who's the guy that was with Jimmy Jam?
Terry Lewis.
Terry Lewis. Thank you. Those guys are Minnesota guys too, coming up. So it's so crazy to see this big pop R&B scene coming up out of Minneapolis, which you just wouldn't think. And no disrespect to Minneapolis, but for anybody who thinks Minnesota is just Fargo, it isn't. You know, like it's like, it's not just the movie Fargo. I'm sure there's elements of that, but he eventually, you know, one thing leads to another. He's in bands like something Grand Central, one of them, or it's like one band. Station. Well, I think it was based off of that, but it was like a knockoff band, and then they turned into 94 East, I believe, which that stuff's available on Apple, and it's actually quite good. And then eventually we get to For You, right? The debut album, which is supposed to be produced by Maurice White, but Prince, in the alpha decision of the century, you are a starving child musician, and you say, I don't want the lead singer of Earth, Wind, and Fire to produce my debut song. I got this. And you think about it, because and I'll shut up here after this. I want to hear you guys, but I think about it like this is a guy who was in control of almost nothing of his life. His mom's showing him pornography. His parents are splitting up. He cannot make any outcome happen that he wants other than making amazing music. So he's like, dog, like he's almost got a gun to his head. It's like, Maurice, dude, you don't know what I'm going through, bro. Like I have to do this my way. And it's so inspiring to me because only somebody that alpha and tight can do that. You know,
I had no idea about the Maurice White.
Yeah,
part.
He missed out on Michael Jackson Thriller
That's
too. Maurice White
crazy.
took some L's. Maurice White had a great career, but he could have. I mean, he would have never made Thriller because that's a Quincy Jones album. But like, it was between him and Quincy Jones for Thriller, and then for Prince's first album, which albeit didn't sell that much. It's not the smash hit that his later music would be, but it's just crazy. Maurice White was. I mean, like every artist would accept that.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Right. Yeah. You know?
I think
Before
really
we move
exemplary of that, the fact that he rejected Maurice or said, I'm going to produce it myself, is the fact that he opens the album with like a crazy like a cappella track too.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
nope.
and
Sure.
did
This is
the
what I'm
and
gonna
rejected the photography too. And he's like, I'll take my own picture, and then he took that photo.
That cover's sick too.
Yeah.
That cover is like really tight. Like
Yeah.
it's like almost like proto meme with like the corgi's face like superimposed, like you know, like kind of fading away. It's a yeah. Let's talk about it though. For you, I mean, we'll jump right into it. This is a 1978 album, recorded right there in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Hey, can I say something about his early childhood really quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, do you guys know the story about like the angel visitation?
I have heard it slightly, but if you know it, go ahead.
Yeah. So, like, this is how he tells the story. That he said when he was like, so he had epilepsy. I think it's also fascinating that like Julius Caesar had epilepsy. Dostoevsky had epilepsy.
Yeah.
Napoleon did. Like, it's a pretty interesting like list of names on that. But like, so he said when he was 7 years old, he'd been having these seizures. And then he went into his mother's bedroom and said, an angel came to me and told me I'm not going to be sick anymore. And then the seizure stopped.
Damn.
And like, I don't know what that was. It could have been a kid's imagination. Who knows? But like, I think that's a cool thing to bring up. One, because I think like otherworldly entities healing medical conditions is like the most rare candy like material I can imagine presenting here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But also like it would kind of explain a lot if he was actually visited by an angel. Like it's not totally outside the realm of believability.
I've never spoken about this before, but I was born epileptic. And I used to have seizures when I was young. And my mother and father didn't know what to do or how to handle it, but they did the best they could with what little they had. And my mother told me one day I walked into her and said, Mom, I'm not going to be sick anymore. And she said, why? And I said, because an angel told me so.
I believe.
I believe all of that. I believe all, and there's actually a long tradition of like, especially when you go like trace roots to like African music and stuff like that, of musicians, like people that are special musicians having some kind of affliction or being touched by like some, you know, whatever weird condition or kind of being sickly as kid. Like that's a real old school thing. Like master musicians being different. Real different.
I mean, listen to the catalog. Try to tell me it's not real. I mean, like that's the way I look at it. Nobody is good for as long as he is that way. Like it just isn't the case. And right away off the bat, making like futuristic songs that sound like they're from like 2001 Timberland beats. Like you know, like if you listen to this album, it is like he's not there yet. That's one thing you need to know. He's not there yet.
For sure.
Especially vocally. Like vocally, he is just like a shell of himself. But he is a great songwriter already. Like to be honest, like I think he's almost there, like as a songwriter.
Totally.
But like, you know, in Love is like that sounds like an Aaliyah song from like 1999. Like it's crazy. Like it doesn't sound like it's from.
It's one of my favorites on the album.
The production on it is beautiful. It's like almost like that Step in the Name of Love. Like I just like think of that like style of rhythm to it. That's just so good. Soft and Wet is a classic. I mean, you're learning like the Prince sexualized like kind of, but there's shame. There's always shame and weirdness in his sexuality. Anytime he's overtly sexual, it's kind of like but I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Like it's not good that I'm doing
I
this.
think,
Like,
yeah, even in his face, like when you watch early interviews and stuff, or him on TV, there's shame like in his face. Like he doesn't want to look at the camera.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Like,
I don't think he ever got over it too. Like the camera, he's just never. It's almost like he had to take like classes that like politicians take. Like it's like later where he's like really like locked in on the interviewer, like and can't like move rhythmically. But then you see a guy that's on stage and it's just like there's literally no bad move he does on stage. There's nothing that looks weird. It's all it's just. I don't know. He was just meant to do this. I just can't iterate that enough. But he goes on Dick Clark. Was that American Bandstand back in the day?
Yep.
He goes on American Bandstand, and Dick Clark interviews him, and Prince bombs. Like he freezes up. He even says himself, he's like,
so
I
bad.
literally. All his boys were like, dude, what? Like you ruined it, dude. Like you stink, bro. Like you're toast. like you'll never be good. And he's just like, then he's like, yeah, but that's never gonna happen again. Like I don't even think the interview that bad. Like it's like it's like you watch it, it just looks like an awkward kid musician. Like
I kind of thought it was cool. He was like had his musicians back because he's like, so you played everything, and he's like, I don't know, maybe. He's kind of like has his musicians back. Like I'm not gonna throw them under the bus.
And that's a great point because he did play everything. Now he always had a live band, but in the studio he would have session musicians, but like he would basically just like jump into your body and play it for you essentially. They say he was the only time he would ever concede anything is when the OGs came to the studio, like Larry Graham. He would never tell him what to do because why would you? Larry Graham's, if not the best bass player ever, he's close to it. Definitely the best pioneer of the instrument, I would say, as we know it now. But he would always just do it himself. You would on this one. You can kind of hear some the drums. They're still regular drums, maybe slightly electronic, but later you don't quite get the programmed almost like hip hop early like Melly Mel like Grandmaster Flash type drums that you get on Dirty Mind that you might know him from but he still manages like. I know these albums get re-released and for streaming, especially after he passed when everything became available to us. They get re-released, but like the sound quality on his albums is so good. Like, is it the mixing? Like for somebody who the hell knew who this guy was back then? Like they didn't, like for them, the quality is so good. And it's just, the guy's a savant, man. You could just tell he's not there yet, but he has it,
Yeah, I think like I always imagine what it would be like to listen to For You in 1978. Because like Glenn, I agree. Like he's not there yet. It doesn't like take off until a couple albums later, I don't think. But like if you heard this thing and you're like, wow, this.
Yeah, we lost you.
We lose him.
We lost.
I'll pick up where he was saying because I think I feel like what he was talking about a little bit. Like how would you feel? Because a lot of it pertains to like 70s music. It kind of has like Al Jarreau.
Yes,
Patrice Rushen, like that song "My Love Is Forever." That's like a real, set like any of those '70s people could have sang that, and it would have fit right in. I think "Soft and Wet" is the one track that's like this is Prince. This is what Prince is gonna be.
It's a prequel. It's like the origin story to it all, and it's definitely up there with among his of his early stuff. It's like probably top 5 like songs of it, and I'm a pretty big fan of the album. It's worth listening. I mean, all his catalog is worth listening to. Like, there's not going to be anything you have to skip. Some's going to stick out more than others. And what's good is you're all, with if you're a guy that just knows like Purple Rain, Raspberry Beret and stuff, nothing wrong. None of this is going to make you like that song any less or any of those songs any less. Cause spoiler alert, those are all amazing too, but you're going to find out a lot more and it's going to actually enhance the songs you already like.
He's like not all the way there yet, like you guys are saying, but almost instrumentally. Well, what you notice is 3-4 albums in, he starts doing more with less, right?
Yeah,
and that's the whole thing. That's like the Prince sound. So it's almost like it's not like he's overcompensating, but it's clearly he wasn't comfortable, and he got more comfortable with like, oh yeah, just some shitty Roger Lynn Casio beat and vocals and maybe like one bass pluck. Whereas like this is super orchestrated and instrumental, which is beautiful. you're not going to really see that with Prince for a few decades later, almost.
I know, yeah.
And so it's kind of like and it's kind of so it's almost like he's not trying too hard. I don't know. He's trying to like pop, and he's.
I get to make an album. I can't wait to do this, and this, and this, and it's like
showing all his chops.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And even that last song has like Iron Maiden riffs on it.
Yes, dude. Yeah.
Like, dude.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy so this is another thing. So now you guys, all three of you guys play guitar. I don't. Yeah. I mean, I can functionally play a couple chords, but like it's not something that comes.
You jam yourself.
Well, okay. I'll post a video on Twitter and let everyone roast me tomorrow. Then, yeah, like see if you come to see.
You probably play better guitar than a lot of people who say they play guitar.
I don't ever advertise myself as one, but I can like kind of like I can play like Heart of Gold by Neil Young, like shitty, like if he got injured by the vaccine, like that's like how I can like I the one they substituted for him on Spotify.
Long COVID Neil.
yeah. I can hit that one. But shout out to Harvest that came out 50 years ago.
Neil with the Eric Clapton vax hands.
yeah.
Slow hand for real.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. So, but the guitar, I mean, you guys all play. I think he's I think even better than his guitar skill, which is otherworldly. It's just different than anybody else. I would say Ernie Isley is the only thing that ever, and Eddie Hazel are the people that really are the only thing that I can ever say reminds me of Prince or vice versa. But
I'm so glad you said that, because he's the total Ernie Isley lineage.
Yeah. Oh, if you listen to "Choosy Lover" by the Isley Brothers, it's like that's like a Prince song. I wish he covered that song. I literally wish I could hear a Prince version of that song. But he would. It's more impressive than his skill on guitar is that he decides that you're not worthy of his guitar until a certain moment, and then it just like it literally gives you chills, and you almost like don't know what to do when it comes on. And it surprises you with it, like the beginning of When Doves Cry. It's like why would you ever put that guitar solo in there, like at the beginning, like just the guitar lick. I know it works in the span of the album a little bit, but like if you were to just throw on that song, it just starts with like a crazy ass like quasi solo at the beginning. And you just if he did it all the time, we'd take it for granted, but like we want it so bad all the time, and that's kind of what Prince's music is like kind of like that like angsty, like lusty yearning for something.
It's so funny you bring this up, because we're on the same exact page with this, because I was wondering if anyone was going to say it, because I listening to all this stuff over the last couple weeks again, what the thing that stuck out to me by far the most over the span of his career was actually how subdued his guitar was on the albums, at least.
Same.
I'm almost right where you're listening. I'm almost like, oh, it's actually a lot less guitar than I remember as a kid. It's very tastefully done.
Yeah.
And you can tell. What the other crazy thing is, he's like a massive pop star, and he's still learning how to be good at guitar too, which is kind of something no one does anymore, right? Mm-hmm. Where you actually get, it's like I'm actually better in '85 than I was in '82.
Oh, he I mean, in like 2004, he's like we were like, whoa, he's actually like a goat now.
Yeah,
it's crazy. The way he would play, but if you go see him live, he also understood like you come see me live, I will just melt your face. I will add guitar to songs that don't have guitar on them. Yep. I will I'll do a little distortion on
like
songs,
extend solos,
right. Like Erotic City. There's a good Erotic City live. I put it in our chat, like where he just shreds for like 3 minutes over the like electronic drums of Erotic City, like which is spoiler. It's my favorite Prince song ever and still is. But it's just like, anyways. Any last thoughts on
Erotic City? I just need to. You guys probably know more. Was that like they released it late, right? It's just a random release. It's weird. It's weird, right?
It's one of those. So he did this whole thing where he. Well, when we get to this era, I'll talk more about it. But like in between Purple Rain and like Sign of the Times, he did a lot of experimentation, because when you have a hit like Purple Rain, you kind of earn the right to just like, all right, now I get to really fuck around and do like the stuff that I want to do.
Right.
And he put out all these songs with like the the South Park voices and like the like kind of like George Clinton tribute stuff, and which are, by the way, they're all great. I'm saying that as a joke, but they're all fantastic. But I think he had a persona called Camille with that voice,
right?
And like that album's supposed to come out, but the label was like, come on, dude, like you can't. Which you know, and he's just like, all right, fine. And those songs ended up getting bootlegged. So then it forced him to do real recordings. He said that's the only way you beat the bootleggers is to re-record it the way you want and put it out, which is based because like the bootleggers are like, fine, I'm just going to bootleg all your shit then. So you can make it. Yeah. But yeah, like
no, stop, Prince. No, don't record it.
Yeah, no, yeah. Don't. Oh, no, I'm on Kazaa. I'm going to steal it all. Yeah.
I feel like the sparseness of guitar work, like I think he was just so conscious of like every little detail that he saw his own guitar playing as just another detail. Like he could have been like all ego and been like, I'm just going to shred balls all the time. But he was so aware of like how every little piece fits together that he knew how to put like just enough shredding in.
It's such a treat, man. It's like when you're on a diet and you have a cheat day, man. You're just like, oh, like I get it. Like it's just, if he did it all the time, I don't think we'd appreciate it as much. I mean, the heads would, of course, we'd all like it, but it just, everybody that, it's like the factoid everyone loves to tell when they talk about Prince. They're always like, did you know how good of a guitarist he actually is? Like, and it's like, of course you do, because if you listen to him, but you know, the average person thinks of him as like more of this Michael Jackson kind of style pop star, and like his influences come out big time, especially over the next couple albums. He's a major Sly and the Family Stone head. That's why he was always so beloved. I'm not always why, obviously, but like in Bay Area where I'm from in Oakland, he always did shows in Oakland. No matter what the tour was, anything, he would hit Oakland. Even sometimes he would skip San Francisco, but he would go to like Oakland because that's where Sly Stone was from. And he was just obsessed with Sly Stone, obsessed with George Clinton, obsessed with Larry Graham. Those were the three. I mean, if you listen to those three guys and just combine it into like a kind of a just an androgynous and racially ambiguous guy from Minnesota, like you get Prince, and it's amazing.
From the 5 to the 6, we be in the mix with that red candy paint job on the whip. I need food for the kids, money for the rent. Fuck a lockdown, baby, can't do that shit.
So let's move on to the self-titled album, which is always fun for somebody to have the second album be the self-titled one, which doesn't always happen. But this one is really good. This is one I feel like this is where people start with Prince. I feel like a lot of times. I will say, check out For You if you do. Sometimes a lot of people don't know there's an album before the self-titled one because you'd think you would start at the self-titled.
Yeah,
one.
I thought this was his debut for years.
Yeah, me too.
For sure. Yeah. A lot more guitar on this, and then a lot more like disco dance jams where you can tell they're meant to be like 8-minute, like extended cut dance songs. Like this is like his kind of like attempt at disco. Ultimately I think it becomes something else. But there's some classics on here. I mean, I Want to Be Your Lover. I mean, there's no way you can put that song on and like if you skip it, I think less of you.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest pop songs of all time. Yeah.
The greatest outros of any song.
When it breaks down, like when that happened, you're like, you don't like. That's another one where you're like, oh, this guy's like not just a pop artist. Like this guy is like it's like Mozart doing funk. Like it's crazy. Like
that's another Isley Brothers Prince connection is the outros.
Yes.
I love a good outro and. So he carried on that lineage for sure.
And you just like imagine dude just like hitting a couple rails, fucking late 70s. You throw on the 8-minute extended cut of I Want to Be Your Lover, followed by dude, just side one. You're on this, you're going crazy at like the disco. You're going, I Want to Be Your Lover, Why You Want to Treat Me So Bad, Sexy Dancer, When We're Dancing Close and Slow. That's the 4 right there.
This side one is like, for years, this was like my favorite Prince album because of side one and because of I Feel For You. Like the side one plus I Feel For You is like
it's
unbelievable.
It's damn good. Why You Want to Treat Me So Bad is good. His guitar work on there is fun. It doesn't seem overly complicated, except I mean he goes hard on the solo at the end, but like the actual chords, but it's just the tone of the guitar just sounds so good. It almost sounds too aggressive for the way he's singing, right? but it like that's what makes it tight. Like is that it's like
I
why
saw
is-
this video of like this guitar nerd like breaking down how Prince would set up his pedal board, and he like I don't know a whole lot about pedals, but it's like he reversed some part of it like a standard guitar pedal setup that just made it like dirtier and grimier.
Ugh.
And I think that like defines so much of his like personality as a guitarist, like
Mhm.
just like a little extra dirt on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, little dirt on it, but then also the cleanest tone in the background.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like, that's just yin and yang of
Feels like a compressor, like a
like
compressor.
almost too clean. You're like, dude, could this tone get any cleaner on the little
Right.
lifts and shit? But yeah,
That's what's
100%.
crazy about "I Want to Be Your Lover" is how clean, like how funky it is, but how clean in the main riff the guitars are.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, how does it manage to be that? And there's so much space. It's
Yeah.
such a
Well,
weird riff.
Do you guys
Yeah,
know how
crazy.
he learned? He literally attributes his knowledge of. I didn't know what he meant by this, but you guys are contextualizing it. But where he learned what space is, and I thought he meant literal space, and I'll tell you why I thought that. But he learned it from Miles Davis. So I was like, "Oh, do you
makes a
think
lot of
we'll
sense.
talk about the moon together or something?" Like that's like, a fly on the wall of that conversation. It would be the hardest thing ever. But like, I mean, Prince probably has some sick moon takes, dude. Like, there's no
Yeah.
way.
You know he does.
Yeah, like there's like one that he just took to his grave that just was like, you'll never know. But
It's really red pill on the moon question.
yeah, like
Yeah.
you know, just installed by this colony or something. Yeah, he's got some takes. But yeah, he learned about that from Miles Davis, like where he was just like you hear it in his stuff, like just the ability of what it creates for you. You don't have to be busy all the time.
Yeah.
Like
Which actually, there's a few famous artists that say the exact same thing about Miles
Yeah.
Davis, which I find interesting.
well, that'll be our next deep dive. That's actually our next deep dive. So yeah, that's
Ooh.
that'll be fun.
I'm very
Yeah.
excited to listen to that.
Which,
yeah.
by the way, I'm boycotting that deep dive if Glenn and whoever else is on does not read the autobiography.
No, I will.
Well, I've already read it. Can I get in?
Yeah, you'll be in on it. You'll be in on it. We got one guest, and we'll add Evan to that one too. Yeah, that's
hell yeah.
no,
It's
that's
the
fair.
funniest piece of text I think I've ever read.
It's
in my
so
life.
good.
It's one of the greatest books of all time.
No, yeah, I mean, it's amazing.
Do you like jazz music?
Oh, yes, sir. Miles Davis, I learned a lot from. I learned a lot about space from Miles. Space is a sound, too, and can be used very inventively.
So the yeah, but this album, and then you go to side 2. I'm a Bambi stan, dude. Like,
Dude, Bambi
I-
fucking rocks so hard.
Bambi is dope, and it's like literally about one of the biggest trolls that he's ever done was
Yeah.
go on the Ellen DeGeneres show
Yes.
and play Bambi, which is literally about a girl being lesbian, like, and just like, you know, and it's like it's raunchy, like it's a raunchy song. The guitar is very like sleazy, like bathroom sex, like guitar. It's great, man. I mean, I love it. It's like a stripper song.
Yeah, and he's once
Dude,
again showing
maybe-
his rock chops. He always shows every album. He'll show his rock. His
Every album.
rock chops.
Even his like even that his late career R&B stuff, or like the mid 2000s like R&B stuff where it's like those like almost like remind, like, you know how he has like the late 2000, or I think like late 90s, mid 90s, and like to the early 2000s where he had those like real like classic like BET style like R&B songs.
Mhm.
And he would they almost like reminded me of those, like, if you ever know some like black dudes that post like those like animated pharaohs like to like pineal gland and stuff, like it reminded me of those like type of songs where it's like yeah, if you know the reason you can't find the right woman is because you ain't found the pussy in her brain or something like that.
Yeah.
Like just like those type of guys. Like, did you know women got a pussy in their brain? Like it's just like or it'll be like a guy like fingering a girl's brain or something. Like yeah, like everybody knows a guy like that. Like
That
you
dude,
don't
for sure.
find like that. Even on those albums, he'll bust out the rock.
Yeah.
Like it's so tight. Like
I think his grasp of like everything that could be anything that could fall into the category of like American popular music, he's just so like on top of all of that stuff that like even when he's rocking, he's still kind of funky, and even when he's funking, he's still kind of rocking. You know what I mean? Like there's always like a little bit of like everything in there. You know?
Yep.
I think that's like a Minneapolis kind of thing. Also, because it's similar vibes to Seattle, where I played music for a long time, and also I think the Bay Area, where lots of kinds of music get put together. Like it's one of those kind of cities where it
Like
doesn't
Tower
have
of
an
Power,
exclusive. Everything's like melting in.
The Bay Area's got like Tower of Power, you know, Confunction, like people like that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
all these bands that are just like you can you can call them funk, which I don't think they run from that label, but there's just a lot more going on, you know. And I think like Minnesota, I'm learning, like, dude, like Husker Du's from Minnesota. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Okay,
that's big. Yeah, I was like, they got a scene out there, man. Like they got there's music out there. Like they're underrated music town. Like I know Ryan right now is pumping right now. He's like, yeah, dude. Like I just know it. But he's just absolutely. You know, I've been telling y'all essentially. But any more thoughts on the self-titled release?
I feel for you. I feel for you is like one of my. It's such a groove, and I'm always mad every time DJs play the Shaka Khan version because his version just has such a groove to it.
I know.
That's another Reddit thing. Did you know Prince wrote it? Did you know? You know,
And he is the author of some amazing songs. I mean, like, you know, most of them for like girls that he was smashing, but like a lot of a lot of great songs, you know. But I love. I mean, the whole album's good. I don't even know like why I'm picking it apart.
The back half of this actually has a lot of like. I love what's the last song in this album called?
It's Gonna Be Lonely.
I love that song, dude. The like really long outro with like the like really heavy accented hits were like I don't know. I think this whole thing pretty much front to back is solid gold. Yeah.
And he's young, man. What is he, like 20 when this comes out? Like
20,
he's 20. He was born in 58 and this comes out, so it's recorded in 78, you know, 79. So he's 21 years old. Like he's, you know, he had a couple helpers, but again, he's playing drums, which later I think I don't think anybody benefited more from electronic drums than Prince, because like, you know, programmable drums like and kits and stuff, because that's the weakest part of his musicianship, I think, is just his regular drumming. It's not bad, but if you listen to his later work, you're like, oh, it's so much better when you do it that way. And then you have Sheila E. play live. You know, like
also if you're playing your own drums, you're playing to a click track anyway.
Exactly.
So
and it sounds like that. And it sounds
already going to be metronomed out. So it just kind of frees you up to do electronic.
Yeah, he found a way to just like with those programmable drums to actually become freer, you know, like more free. Which most people don't. That's like not what happens. Like you know, even if it works, even if it's something like Sexual Healing, you know, that Marvin Gaye's drums didn't get better from that. You know, like his drummers were before that were going crazy, and it was but Prince, I think it was the opposite. So next album is Dirty Mind. I absolutely love this album. This is this is probably top 5 Prince albums for me. Like I think he got really mad that this didn't take off. And like I think his first 2 he understood what was happening. He's like, I'm growing. I don't think I'm there yet. This is the first album where he thought he was there. And I think it's fair. It's a little bare bonesy with the production. I think he's really leaning on the electronics here, and it's a little bare bonesy. Yet it's not quite as big as his later work would be, and his voice still isn't Prince that we know it. It's like he's like, I don't know if this dude like hit puberty at like 18 or something, because like it's still working out, like it's still working its way out. He didn't get that like that crazy like Prince guttural vocal that he could switch to back and forth like with a knob, like almost like to falsetto. That's not there yet. But this album to me has no skips. I think it's you just put it on and let it go.
It's got pulse. It's got that pulse from start to finish.
The opening track, Dirty Mind, boom, 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 boom. It's just like, and you listen to it and it sounds like almost corny. Like when it comes in, you're like, what is this going to be about? But the way his vocals ride over that, like kind of like super programmed drum beat, and like kind of just almost like it's almost like one note synth, not even a chord. And it's so good. I don't know why
one synth plays that one chord the whole time. Bang, 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 bang. Well, everything else changes underneath it.
And it's so good. And like, you know, just it's in my daddy's car. It's you I really want to drive. Like that part just gets me every time. I don't know why. It's just he when you know what Prince became later, where he became this kind of like more conservative old head as he got older, you're just like, it's funny to see him just like kind of let it all out. And he's just like, so like he kind of sounds nerdy the first 3 albums, like almost like angsty and nerdy at the beginning. Like it's not working out for him with the ladies. He's
still got something to prove at this point. He's not like legendary superhuman musician yet. He's still like kind of a kid who's just like trying to like establish himself, you know.
But you feel like a guy like that would kill it at the roller rink. You know what I mean? Like you look at him like, but I don't think he did. Like I think he did okay with the ladies, but like I think he essentially when he got like then like he be in the 80s, like late 80s, he became like an incel almost, like where it was just like, which ultimately led to him getting more, which kind of a red pill there, but like he was just had like this kind of disdain for like the amount of what was flowing in there. It was just funny. When You Were Mine, I love that. That basically is like creating like Cyndi Lauper music before Cyndi Lauper. Like it's like
it kind of is.
Yeah, or
I
like
think the
kind
thing
of like,
about the When You're Mine too is he almost all of the albums will have a song that's kind of like oldies kind of sounding, like a little like real innocent
Retro,
kind of oldies.
yeah.
But then I notice he does that a lot.
but also the lyrics are about just straight up getting cucked too.
Well,
like I didn't even change the sheets and stuff. Like I'm like,
that's
damn,
what
dude.
every one of his tracks that's like the oldies sounding one is like the dirtiest lyrics, like Jack You Off on later.
Yeah,
you know?
dude.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah. Do It All Night's great.
I love that song so much.
Broken Heart Again is a nice ballad to end side one. Again, I say this all the time when we talk about old artists. If you're young, you got to understand side one and side two before you can understand how albums are created. Like you got to end side one with a ballad. Not, you don't have to, but like a lot of times side one would end with a ballad, and then side two you get Uptown, which is just a hit. I mean, that is like that is one where he's asked by the girl, "Are you gay?" in the song, in his own voice as a girl, which I like. That's
it's so incredible.
Yeah, it's so, like that catches you like so out of town, but it catches you so just like off guard. But it's so cool. It's just, you can see him kind of like say it out of the side of his mouth with his eye raised a little bit. Like you can see him make that face when he's doing it. And
like a method actor. He's like in the studio, dude. Yeah. And
he had Head is another one. That's another just dirty, nasty song. I mean, the album is not just a clever name, as Wayne Campbell would say. It's dirty. I mean, it's gross. I mean, he's raunchy, but he had trouble getting it on the radio. I mean, that's really what it was. Like, I could see a lot of these songs hitting, but like a lot of the guys are like, well, I don't know. Like, back then it's not like a rap song nowadays where it's like it can be dirty, but like you'll make the radio edit. Back then they didn't like the implication for a lot of the songs. Like they were just implying that you were gonna have a song about head.
It's like when they mixed out Marvin Gaye saying, "I want to give you some head," and I Want You album.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a lot of people missed that too on that album, which is I think is funny because he's like, yeah, he's damn you big. What does he say? You big fat woman is part of like that. It's like, damn, dude, you're getting fucking nasty, dude.
Yeah, that's how they do it in Motown, huh?
Yeah,
that's how they get down. Huh?
Speaking of the era, like too, also I just wonder what the vibe was like when you came out on a TV show wearing like the zebra Speedo, and like thigh high women's like stockings and like high heel. What was the?
That there's like 70s rock dudes that saw that come off. They're like, I got to do this shit now. God damn, it's like a
Rod Stewart already switched to the tight pants by then. He's like, bro, I got to do this now. Like he's like, I got some 80s heat coming. Can you just let me go off that? Like I already did the "Do you think I'm sexy" thing. Like, I got to do this now? But this is an album that got better as Prince got better. So a lot more people, Rolling Stone finally gave it its due. A lot of it just became one of those ones that people went back to and went, actually, this is really good too. Like this is, and it is. It's like I actually, when we were on, I think I lost time on the binge because I kept replaying this. I spent like a week with this album. Like it was just, I mean, nothing wrong with it. I don't regret, no regrets whatsoever. But
what do you guys think of "Sister"? That song threw me off real hard when I first heard it.
It's a trip. Yeah, it's a trip. Like I just wonder, what I said in the family intro, I don't think we were told everything that happened. Let's just say that much.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Like, and hey, the less we know, the better. It's not necessary to know all that stuff. Like, it's like he can take that to his grave. I'm glad nobody came forward about that. But look, he finds a way to still make great music out of all that stuff. I like the song. I mean, the songs are all great, but and then Party Up,
part of life, right?
It's part of life. No, I mean, like, look, like at the end of the day, I look at people like this, and maybe I don't even think Prince would agree with me on this, but like you look at certain people that go through like hell and they create great art, and it's like, what if God was trying to reward us by making you you know, like the listener, like, you know, you still persevered, right? You still persevered. You know, he obviously had demons that he carried forever, but a lot of times, like the stuff you go through, like think of all the people Prince helped with his music, dude, and his live shows, like, and all that stuff. Like there has to be like a sense of martyrdom to some of it, right? Like I don't know. It's just, to me, I tend to look at the positive in that sense rather than like, oh, I can't believe it. Like it's just all things considered, like he didn't just give up, you know, or just black pill.
Yeah. Do you guys know the story about Clyde Stubblefield in Prince?
No.
So Clyde Stubblefield, one of James Brown's drummers, was suffering from cancer, and one day his like medical bill just disappeared. And then after Prince died, we found out that Prince paid his medical bill. And Glenn, like you're saying, like had Prince not gone through the hell he went through, like we might not still have Stubblefield. Like,
because you know James Brown was not paying that shit.
No, fuck that. Dude. Not even. Yeah,
he's like, can I get more money from you? Actually,
Brown, like, how you get that shit? I would never hire somebody that would get cancer. Like,
he's gonna fine him for getting cancer.
Like, come on, bro. Like, why your hair gone, bro? But no, it's great. Party Up is actually Morris Day has a co-writer credit, which I'd like to know how that happens. I don't. I mean, and Psy is a more. I am too, but he's the Morris Day guy. I think Psy is.
Big the Time guy.
The Time is sick because it's like swagged out like ghetto Prince. You know what I mean? Like, which is what I like. Like he found vehicles for his. He found vehicle, as much as he changed as an artist, he would find vehicles just in the same
Cholo
way.
Prince, you know. It's
just,
culture and shit.
Yeah, exactly.
And the Time has more groove, bring that groove to it that Prince sometimes lacked with Drum Machine or just being on tempo, where the Time really has. They're in the pocket, crazy.
It is. It is. Yeah, absolutely. Any last thoughts on Dirty Mind?
It rocks.
It like a lot of people still need to listen to this album. Like again, there's, if you're like the guy that starts at 1999, which again, nothing wrong with that. Go back though. Like this is amazing. So I want to get it on CD too. Like I need to get it. Like a lot of these albums I need to get on CD because Scott's pilling me on that stuff. It is better in the car. The CD in the car is I don't know. You reject modernity on all levels when you play a CD in your car. You know, like you're ready to say no to any psyop that comes your way. You know, like when that happens.
I have it on vinyl. Sorry, vinyl haters.
Oh, it's a space thing for me. It's a space thing. I love vinyl.
I feel you.
I love.
I always think of getting rid of my vinyl because it's like you're lugging. You just have. It just fills up so much
and
room.
You got to get the monitor. You got to have something like some nice like speakers, like that takes up the room too. Like it's like, because the worst is when you get the keyboard, or when you get the turntable with like the little tweeter speaker like built in. I'm like, that's not gonna hit for me, bro. Like you know, so I like, no, trust me. If I get like, you know, if we get where we need to go, I'm gonna have it all. I'm gonna have every sound setup you could ever have. So no, I look, Sai and I, like one of the first things we ever like did as a hangout thing is to go like dig for records and stuff. So I love it. I mean, and like I said, I could picture my aunt buying that insane album cover, like, you know, at the store. I just chuckle because if you guys saw her, it's just like so funny. Like, but the next
CD album, in the car is the move. Yeah.
Oh, the CD in the car is the move. You feel like Peter Gabriel in Your Eyes video with the drop top, and he's just looking up. Like you feel like that. Like it's so cool. Controversy is next. And I have a controversial take. This album doesn't do it for me.
Man, doesn't do it for me either. It's not controversial.
I literally go through it and it's like nothing is like, turn this off. It's just like there's just nothing pops out to me.
Thomas and I'll defend it then.
Yeah, come on. Yeah, I want to. Let's Work is great. Let's Work is great. That's an amazing song.
I think the title track is great, and it kind of carries on like the way Dirty Mind, the title track, was like a kind of dancey.
Sure.
Like
it's the best song on the album for sure. Yeah. Which can be disappointing if you're expecting like a cohesive album and track one just blows the load for sure. I get it, you know. Yeah.
I think it's just
Andy Christian is cool. Andy Christian is
I like Andy Christian a lot, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, like you hear it, it's on. I'm never gonna be like, hey, turn that off. I mean, none of his albums I'll be like that. But you're just like in the span of like what's comes after this, what's before it, I'm like, And and it's funny. This album gets him critical acclaim. Like Brady Sinellis in the Shards, one of the scenes, he's like Prince's Controversy is playing like in the background, with smash hit record. I'm like, he had hits, like, you know, like there were some and like he brings up the death of John Lennon in there in Annie Christian. So that's pretty cool. I mean,
my one observation of controversy that I thought of was like, when an artist feels like they have something to say, it's kind of like not always.
That's fair. That's fair.
Like,
I think
I
later
have commentary to make.
Yeah, no, Peter Gabriel suffered from the exact same thing, and it's like, no, your music was already saying it, dude. Like, you don't have to like actually. Now, to be fair, Sign of the Times, he perfected that. I think he perfected saying something, and then, but like he figured out how to say it, but not be on the nose. I think, but yeah, like Controversy, and then I love the album cover. You look at it, it's like. The studio saw the label saw the last one. They're like, put some clothes on. Let's see how it works. Like they're like, let's try it now. Let's try it now with the clothes on. Like, see if just well, we want to have a control group, you know, for
we're A/B testing clothing. Yeah.
Let's just see. Like, you know, like hey, you look great. Yeah, you're in great shape. But you know, just I think but it, you know, the album did pretty well. It came out to good reviews and everything, and he's just building, and I think he gets his first absolute smash album that also is great. Like, it's just like, oh my gosh, it finally all comes together. And like, these are some of my favorite albums where even if you like certain album cuts more, or you love where an artist is at a certain point, I think it's so cool when they finally just intersect what they want to do with what we want to hear, you know? And I think 1999 does that.
Yeah, it's definitely like his most ambitious album at that point. I listened to a podcast series about like the making of this album, and apparently it wasn't supposed to be a double LP. It's just like after Controversy, like this valve got opened, and he was just like writing 1-2 songs a day. He was living in this house with his band, and he was just like nonstop producing jams. And like, yeah, this like something really clicks on 1999 for sure.
Yeah. And speaking of the clothing, the no clothes, like we go back to 99, and on the record, on the vinyl, when you pull out one of the record sleeves, it's him naked in bed with a sheet like halfway covering his bare ass. Fuck that. Fuck that. We're going back to naked.
Yeah, like, but it was in the album cover, so it's like, you know, you got to have the gate code to my naked body. Like, you got to like buy the album, open it up, and look at it. Like, that was the concession that the label made. They're like, put it on the fucking album art then, dude, or in the inside of the thing. Like, which that's another thing, man. If you're young, like, you know, you don't know this. Like, you would buy an album and it was an experience. Like, you'd buy it, you'd open it up, you'd look like, you know, and you'd look all on the inside and big fold out thing, and like sometimes you'd see naked dudes, you know, or naked chicks, like the Roger Waters album, you know, like you'd see all sorts of stuff like that, and it was this album is pretty damn perfect though. Like it's I can just picture throwing a damn party and just leaving it on. That's like such a fantasy now, like to do that, like to put somebody's album on. And it's not a playlist. It's not their essentials. It's not their greatest hits. It's just like, no, this whole album, like, it's going to set the tone. It's going to be on for a little over an hour. And after that, we're going to put on another sick ass album. But like for now, you know, the title track, I mean, 1999, this song has its own story where Prince's band was watching a documentary about Nostradamus. And in the film, Nostradamus predicted of terror would fall upon the world in 1999. Prince was like kind of like aghast by the documentary, and was basically just like, if the world's ending, I would just party. He's like, I don't care. I believe in God. I'm just gonna go to heaven. He's like, why is everybody tripping? So like that, he actually like talks about. There's a great Larry King interview, because this song had a resurgence in 1999. People like, I know people that graduated high school in 99, and it was like at their prom, like a song from, you know, over a decade prior. They would be playing it, like it would just be like the theme to their prom. Prince 1999, because Y2K, people don't if you weren't around during that time, you don't understand like what a crazy thing that was. Like, year 2000's coming. And but he's like, there's a part with the Larry King interview, I'll splice it into here, but like he just goes like, Larry King's like, you're not worried about 1999 Y2K? He's like, I'm not tripping, dude. He's just like, you know, he's like, it is what it is. Like, Yeah, he's like, it is what it is. He's like, if the world ends, like, why are you so worried about the world ending? You know, and he didn't care about any of that like computer Y2K stuff. But
we were sitting around watching a special about 1999, and a lot of people were talking about the year and speculating on what was going to happen. And I just found it real ironic how everyone that was around me, whom I thought to be very optimistic people, were dreading those days, and I always knew I'd be cool. I never felt like this was going to be a rough time for me.
It's also an amazing song. First, you hear a woman's voice to start the album. It's not him, and I was dreaming when I wrote this. Forgive me if it goes astray. Mac Dre had a song where he said, "I was fizzing when I wrote this, so forgive me if it goes astray."
Mac Dre fucked with Prince,
Before I
dude.
start rapping, I must warn you, I just washed 2 mushrooms down with some orange juice. I was fizzing when I wrote this, so forgive me if it goes astray. It's just the many dumb flows of Dre. Yeah, amazing. Like, and that's when I heard the Dre song, like, really before actually getting into Prince, like, in the way that I did. And I was like, God damn, that's an amazing flip of a line.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is
There's that, and then there's the listening to the Flashlight extended version. Shout out Parliament. There's some great throwback Dre lines for sure.
Yeah, no,
Extended version.
he was ahead. He was one of the heads, dude.
He was
Like,
ahead.
but yeah, I love 1990. The title track is like that song just gets you going every single time.
Yeah, I think impending Prince hot take, Little Red Corvette is also a really good song. Like, yeah, it's like,
it's
for sure. It's like, no, it's like, I know that it, like, duh, of course we all know that, but like the thing that stands out about that song in this album is that, like, I think Prince, one of the things he really did well was like songs that are kind of equal parts melancholy and grandiose.
Yes.
Like, it's kind of emo, but like huge at the same time. You know, it's like, I think title track of Purple Rain is kind of similar, but like Little Red Corvette to me is just like that thing just like washes over you. It's like one of the most powerful like experiences I can have as a music listener. That thing is just incredible.
There's shame in
That's
every
cool.
album.
I wrote down a couple. Yeah, I wrote down a couple notes when I was listening to it, and I kind of thought the same thing about Little Red Corvette, where it's actually when you listen to the verses, and there's a few songs that do this on the album where the verses like really sparse and emo and like just kind of sad synth chords. And
yeah, I mean
the other song that's like that on this is the Something in the Water doesn't compute.
Yeah.
Where real
exactly.
sparse, and that's kind of like foreshadowing directions he's gonna go later. But I feel you with the Little Red Corvette, the contrast.
Yeah,
Little Red Corvette, dude. The first time I ever heard that song was when I was in the dentist as a kid. And it's still, in my opinion, the best song you could ever hear at a dentist, because all the like light rock, we had a station, Silent knows, KOIT, Light Rock Less Talk. That we had that was their station, and they would play like, you know, it would be like Michael McDonald. Like, they had some grooves on there, like, but a lot of like, you know, just like kind of basic, like Melissa Etheridge would be the contemporary thing they'd be playing, and then but you would like, for some reason, like the dentist always had that on. And but I felt like I just thought like Little Red Corvette is just such a catchy chorus, and of course the music is phenomenal. But then like you listen to it later when you're a little older, you're like, oh man, like this guy's. I mean, it's a damn. I mean, and I'm not saying this in a bad way. It's a misogynist song, man. Like, he's like mad at women in that song. Like, he's just like I think he's dealing with a new breed of women at this point in his career that are not in local Minnesota shows. Like, I think it's like I mean, there's all the idea is like she walks around with a pocket full of horses, Trojans, and some of them used.
But she hangs on to him after.
She just hangs on to him. Yeah. And I could see the way you parked your car outside that this wasn't gonna last. Just I mean, it's so good. I could see the jockeys that were there before me. Like, it just I mean, come on. Like,
these city girls are different, man.
It's just different. Like, he just, you know, this guy's doing, you know, world tours at this point. Like, it's just different. It's fun to see his the way he views like women and stuff, the way it progresses. Like, I love to check in at every album and see like how we're talking, because like later he gets a lot more sentimental, you know, and a lot more sensitive as you do when you get older. But like as a young guy, he's just like, it's like, come on, but Delirious is another classic. It's silly, it's quirky, it's fun. It's very like 80s movie music, and it's great.
Yeah, I like that song in particular because like I think one of my favorite things about Prince as a songwriter is like what he does is he takes just like formulas and methods that we're already familiar with, because Delirious is just 12-bar blues. Like it's a very common way to write songs, but then he uses that method to like express his individual personality, because it's 12-bar blues for sure, but it also sounds like Prince. Like no one else ever did blues like that, you know?
You know what's funny is that a lot of his hits are actually 12-bar blues. I didn't really realize until I dug back
Kiss.
into it. But yeah, where it's just like, damn, he's just made it so zany and so sparse and weird that you would never tell. You never be able to tell upon first listen as like unless you're trying to figure it out musically or whatever. But yeah, that's
you got to dig beneath the surface, beneath like the layers of crazy synths, and you're like, wait a minute, this is like actually way simpler than it sounds.
Well, let me know how you guys feel about this as people who know more about, you know, guitar than I would. But there's so many times where like the guitar and the synth are just like one instrument. It's like truly synthesizing something. Like it's like taking the guitar where like if like you'd be like, damn, like I don't know if I hear the guitar, but I do. But then like I like, is that a synth or a guitar? Purple Rain's like that a lot. Where you're like, is that a synth or a guitar? Like I literally don't know. Like it sounds like it could have been like this, like those like angel key kind of like keyboard things and certain things, or like a guitar with like a flanger on it or something. Like I don't know. You know, it's quite. And I say that as like it's truly like everything just melds into one, because it kind of is one guy, you know.
I think that's one thing that's beautiful about his guitar playing is that like how you compared it to the synth, and it's also his guitar playing is a lot like a voice as well. Like it's very lyrical and melodic. So there's even times where he'll like sing the guitar part, or he plays the guitar part and then it turns into a vocal part that's the exact same.
And this is where his voice came out. I think his voice actually got started on here, where he would really toggle with like falsetto and like aggressive and like even like subdued kind of vocal. It wasn't just that kind of like guy that almost sounds like he's on his tiptoes trying to reach the microphone, like like, you know, trying to sit at the big kids table. Like now he's got like a man's voice, like albeit a short man with a high pitched voice, but a man's voice.
Yeah, he only sang in falsetto for the first 4 albums. You know?
Straight up, dude.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about. Yeah, he was. I wonder what it was, like why he got more comfortable with his voice, more confident. I don't know, but something shifted on this album for sure.
He might have just been a late bloomer, dude. Like I don't know. Like I just might have been. Like you might have just like, damn, I got that. You know, now you just have that. Like it's like back in the day when you call, you know, before your voice changed, they call and they'd be like, they think it's your mom, and you get all mad like, when you answer the phone. and then after a while, they're like, oh, you grew up, Glenn. You know, like wow, you know, it's like your uncle that you don't see that much. That's kind of how this album feels a little bit, where he's just like, wow, this is like a grown man, you know. And but yeah, I mean, DMSR, killer song. I mean, I love that. I love when he goes back to like old school like funk kind of like songs.
He always has a funk lesson on every album, like a hard funk.
It's like while he's in the span of making an album, he's like listening to his favorite artists, like, you know, and kind of like listening, like he'll some Sly Stone, George Clinton, you know, anything like that. It's like, and then all of a sudden he's like, when he's in that phase, he's like, well, now I'm gonna make this song, just jamming with the band or something.
All his albums give me the impression that he's listening to what's happening and like kind of interacting in his head with band. Like on this album, All the Critics Love You in New York, and a few things where it's kind of like, okay, new wave is sort of starting to happen, and he's like messing around with like a new wave-ish weird synth line, but he makes it Prince, you know, he does his own spin on it.
Yeah, throughout his whole career it was like that. He was like always trying to keep his finger on the pulse. Like he didn't want to fall behind the times, you know. He wanted to be like on the cutting edge of what was like in, you know.
Yeah, but he did it effortlessly.
True.
You know, that's the great, and he did it without, especially when we'll get it probably tomorrow, the hip hop stuff. Like his hip hop stuff is listenable today when no one else is. Yeah, when the, you know, like Debbie Harry or Herbie Hancock or whatever, like good stuff, but it's like those guys were corny. They're in the hip hop era,
right.
And it's like, you know, Prince is like, he was made for that shit, you know. So it's like every little genre, like you said, he makes it Prince. He makes it himself. You know, he makes it his own thing.
I think he has had as much of an ear and an eye as he did like a hand to make it. You know, like he had like I always pictured like especially when you get to like Sign of the Times, because I really spent a lot of time with that album today and watched like the concert series and stuff. You can I kind of feel like that dude just like I try to think about like what that dude like does in his house. I mean, most of the time he's recording. I mean, he had like over like 6,000 songs saved up that like he never released. So there was a lot, and touring a lot of times. So I don't know how much free time he allowed himself because he'd be alone with his demons otherwise. But he kind of I kind of picture him just like watching the news all the time. Like, he had an interview series. He only trusted a couple guys to interview him. There was a Rolling Stone guy named Neil something that grew up in Minnesota that he like his dad knew his dad kind of thing. So he like in 1985 had a really like tell all interview about his childhood with him because he felt comfortable opening up to him. And then all of a sudden there was another guy named Tavis Smiley. I found out about him today.
He's a great interviewer. That guy.
That guy is amazing.
Yeah,
he comes off as like this dork, almost like comedian, like where you're like it looks fake at first, and then you're like halfway through the interview, he's like one of the bros, and like you're like this is so cool. Like because they were friends in real life, so I thought that was he's amazing. So like I highly, and then he loved Larry King, so that's why I feel like he trusted like a few people, like probably just Larry King, because he's like, I just like your show, you know, like I just like because Larry King was the man back in the 90s and stuff. But he on that Tavis Smiley show, like Tavis, I guess I don't know if this ended up happening. I'd have to look it up, but I guess after the Bill Clinton impeachment, one of his big first interviews was on BET. With Tavis Smiley. I gotta watch this interview, but if I had more time today I would have done it. But like Tavis Smiley teases it when he comes back from a commercial break when he's with Prince, and like it's not even showing Prince's face, but he's like, yeah, and on Monday, you know, we got the president, yes, William Jefferson Clinton's coming on for one of his first interviews after impeachment. And Prince goes, oh, what? He's like, that's crazy, man. Like I think he like really was in tune with like the news.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he was like a news guy. I think he like really cared about that. Like I can't imagine him sitting down and watching like a bunch of movies or you know, I'm sure he listened to a lot of music, but I can't imagine him sitting down and doing too many like things that are just idle and like not and just sitting there and watching and being. I don't think he was much of a voyeur in that sense. I think he wanted to absorb everything and channel it into a music, you know, into a music career.
I've heard that he was like he was a movie buff, at least like.
Was he?
For a little bit there, according to this podcast series I listened to, like he was like really into Eraserhead, especially before 1999.
Oh, that's tight.
Yeah, he watched that. Like him and his band, like he would have his band watch movies together. I think that's part of what the Nostradamus thing kind of stuff.
True.
So that, but I could also see him just constantly absorbing like kind of everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just like taking in maybe like any kind of art or any kind of like goings on in the world. Like maybe he was just constantly soaking all of it up. You know.
Oh, I get it. I mean, I will never compare myself, obviously, to this, but I record like fucking at least 6 hours a week of content. Most of the things I watch is going to be something I'm going to talk about. Like like there could be something on, and I'm like, well, I'm not really going to talk about that, so I'm not going to watch it. I'm going to watch the thing that we're going to talk about. So I get what that's saying. It's like anything, and you subconsciously want to you want to have use for everything. You know, like you feel like you can only carry so much. So I do understand that. But before I move on to obviously one of the biggest albums of all time, is there any last 1999 takes?
Yeah, I just want to say the interesting thing, you know, he from his first couple albums, all instruments played and everything, and then he got on the drum tip, and this one is notable because it really brings back, it combines the organic drum sound with the drum groove.
True.
And it's especially like Lady Cab Driver, which I mentioned is probably my favorite Prince song of all time.
Nice.
It's just the groove on that song is insane. It's like lazy, almost like lazy funk, you know, and it's just almost behind the beat. And I really think that's what makes this album like the party album, and it just brings that kind of human element to it. It's really the synthesis of everything he's done so far.
Yeah, no, I think that's so true. Like I love that song too. I think it's excellent.
Yeah.
And what's that?
Oh, just the riff in Lady Cab Driver. It's so simple, but it's so good. And he does that in so many songs. But you're like, how is this little riff so incredible?
Yeah, it's like he almost learns to be lazy sometimes. Like it's something you have to like teach yourself is to be lazy. Like not everyone can do it. It's similar to like a comedian, right? Like a comedian knows like when to kind of like deliver a line a certain way, or an actor, it's like it doesn't have to be turned up to 10 all the time. It doesn't have to be, you know, edge to edge, you know, like corner to corner, you know, fitting perfectly. In fact, the the flaw in it, quote unquote flaw, is going to be what we actually dance to, you know. So I think that's really cool. So we come to what I will say right now is probably the greatest music cultural achievement in history. It is not my favorite Prince album, but it's objectively, I think, where a concept album of a high concept album, which is basically autobiographical, meets a pop sound that everyone loves, meets massive blockbuster movie, meets amazing iconic album cover where people are wearing the shirts forever, meets all that stuff.
Purple Rain?
Yeah, great album. Deeply flawed movie, though.
Thriller is probably the close second. I'm sure many people will disagree with me on that, especially like the Michael Jackson heads. But I don't even think Thriller does what Purple Rain does.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I had the same feeling as you too. It's not my favorite album, but it's like a perfect album, and it's just unbelievable.
It is, yeah. It's just execution mixed with critical acclaim, and especially because, like, look, Mike is with Quincy Jones, Prince is with himself. You know, like
Yeah.
it's not to demean what Michael Jackson did. He's the biggest star ever. I mean, like, truly, like, he is the biggest star stage presence and everything that we've ever seen. But like, Prince is like, he's creating all of this stuff too, and it's like Michael and Quincy combined creating an album. Like it's
Right.
like into one person. It is quite amazing. Now Thomas, this is like your favorite, you said, right?
This, I mean, gun to my head, if I could only listen to one Prince album for the rest of my life,
Fair.
I think it's this one. Like, I almost hesitate to say that because, like we've been talking about, like, I really don't want people to just listen to Purple Rain and stop.
Yeah,
because like there's so much more to discover. But like, man, I just think like this thing is just the perfect balance of like artistic achievement with like commercial viability. Like, just from any angle you can appreciate this thing. It's like you can dance to it, you can analyze it. Like, there's just it scratches every itch that an album can, you know.
Totally.
Oh, I agree, and it is quite good. I mean, it's like on its own. Even if you didn't know there was a movie, didn't know there were cool videos, didn't know it's where the Big Purple aesthetic came from, didn't know any of that. Like, even if you just threw it on and was like, I'm going to try this artist named Prince that I've never heard of and put it on, you'll be hooked. I mean, hopefully, because I feel like he has it's not uncommon, but for him to be he has a little bit of a disdain for it because he remembers just like, you know, arenas and like soccer stadiums, like doing these shows that, you know, you'd never do before that only like, you know, Paul McCartney or like somebody that like of much of an institution could ever sell out. And he's like looking, and he said had this quote where he said, I was looking at all these people's faces, and he goes, you guys aren't sticking with me, huh? Like, he's like, this is gonna go away after this album. And I'm like, and he's right. I mean, like, he's like, it's right. Like the that's what happens when you have that massive hit. It's obviously, it allowed him to create Paisley Park, the mansion, the everything. It gave him unlocked new things for him that he probably would have never been able to do otherwise. But like, with him, he's kind of like, first off, everyone's going to be begging that I play these songs, and he famously like doesn't play the hits at shows a lot. Like, or he plays a few of them, but like, not he doesn't care what you want, like, essentially. And but it is amazing, and we will talk about the movie after the album. But the starts off with Let's Go Crazy. There's a sermon at the beginning of it by Prince, very common thing in his albums. And it's such a fun like movie montage style song. I love the like kind of almost squeaky organ like synth, like high pitched organ synth, and his guitar, which is like really sounds really compressed, but it's still growling a little bit under there. It's just fun, man. It's just fun. Just imagine just being like shit hammered at like a Prince show and just yelling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean,
I remember reading a long time ago. I read somewhere that song was like added on at the end of the album. It was like not going to be on it, and they recorded it live on the movie sound, like their practice, like a warehouse practice stage. They recorded, like the band just like played it live.
I never would have guessed. That's crazy.
Yeah, it sounds so much a part of the thing. But like, dude, this is when Sheila E. joins the band too and stuff in Purple Rain album, and I gotta give Sheila E. some props. She's an Oakland legend, still doing it to this day, 66 years old. Doesn't even look 66. She's still going. Like she is like, she brought that percussion element that he did not have, like, to his life. And I mean, you want to talk about like, and you know, her hit, like everyone should know, is "Glamorous Life," still an absolute banger, written by Prince. And she was like really good, but she could sing, like she could do it all. And she was a performer. But she was and it, like, his band looked cool because there were like chicks in there and stuff, and like it was like a non-forced like diversity thing. Like it was just he wanted it because it was like Wendy and Lisa, they were all good musicians and like good singers, and they had their own careers. I mean, through Prince, but still. And but yeah, Let's Go Crazy is great. I have a new found love for Take Me With You, which I can't say that I did before this, especially its place in the movie is really cool. It's got kind of this like ELO, like late like ELO style like symphony to it, with the kind of like bouncy acoustic guitar behind it that's kind of just keeping the time for everything.
That's incredible.
I love it. I was like, man, I kind of felt that it was like, because it starts out really crazy. You're like, what is this? It's like, like, you're like,
yeah, right.
What is happening here? Like, but then he immediately pulls the rug out from under you, and he's like, no, this is actually going to be like my like ELO like kind of, you know, groove that I love.
I think a lot of this album has this almost like sort of dreamlike, almost Alice in Wonderland-ish kind of like surreal feel to it. And like this song, it just feels like a lot of the stuff that happens with the strings just feels like kind of off in like a compelling sort of way. And like, I don't know, it just it feels like just artsy enough, I guess, to me.
Oh, it is a total art album, like pop album. That's why I think, again, I hate it. Sounds like I'm shitting on Thriller. I love Thriller, but it's just like Thriller is like what it's meant to do is like, it is like stamped at the factory, plastic sealed pop album. This is going to take over your life. Prince, this is like an art album with a pop element and a cinematic element to it, which I know Thriller had too, but this, it's just like, man, I'm looking at every track has a Wikipedia hyperlink, dude. Like every song has one. Like it's The Beautiful Ones. That's one of my wife's favorite. I mean, when he hits that falsetto,
good.
It is amazing. Like it is. And like when he just starts going like just buck at the end, and it's like squiggling on the floor and like just yelling and stuff. It's just like, wow.
Yeah, that ties into the main thing I kept thinking of this album on re-listening to it over and over this week was like the emotion out. Like it's very emotional, the album, compared to everything else he'd done before that. This album is like very like raw. Like he's kind of showing you a raw side of himself, or you get a very emotional, like you were saying, like an arty album.
It's vocally, and it's exactly what it is. He's a little more detached in his earlier albums. It almost sounds like he's like, I have a story to tell, but you're not going to hear it, you know. And then on this one, it's like he's very earnest. He's being very earnest on this. There's no irony. There's no like psh, like that element to a lot of the songs. Computer Blue is another one, man. That's a hit, man. Like I love that song, and that's got the I Want to Be Your Lover switch up, where the back half of Computer Blue is like gorgeous. When it just when he just lets it ride, and it's like the way that like it's like Miami Vice, like Don Johnson in the speedboat. Like you're just like, this is so sick.
My standout sleeper track on this is I Would Die For You. It's what he does with I remember I replied to your tweet when you like put that up, like the hi-hats. I've never heard any of it because it's like a hi-hat mixed with the synth that's giving you the chord changes. And then but I don't know if it's one sound or if you just sync them up, but it's so crazy to have just production wise that, you know, to be dorky for a little bit, to be geeky.
And then there's a
so
clap.
Cool.
There's a clap that shouldn't be there, but it is, and it makes everything.
Yeah.
But just that hi-hat and the synth giving you simultaneously the 16th notes is like, I've never heard anyone do that.
If I can drum nerd for a second, what it is like we're used to hearing a snare drum on beats 2 and 4, and there's no snare on beat 4. And it's like that little touch, like honestly, man, I don't think this song works if there's a snare on 4. I think like taking it out like makes this whole thing feel like just a little floaty. There's a little bit more like emotional kind of tension to it. It's like so fucking smart. I wish I knew how he thought of that.
He has the most tasteful minimalism, like
Yes,
any
yeah.
artist I've ever had. I mean, when Doves Cry has no bass,
I
Kiss
know.
no
Right.
bass.
It
You know,
doesn't.
like it's
Kiss
like
too.
what's that?
Kiss doesn't have bass either.
I mean, listen to it. I mean,
Okay, I should.
like
Yeah,
it's
it's
got
just guitar and drums,
that,
basically.
That's crazy.
like that functions as a bit of a bass line, but
Sure.
like if you were to put it in the car, there's no rumble to it.
Wow.
But you hear it like there's no bass, and the label fought him over Kiss.
Okay.
Like they were like, this has to have a bass line. This can't be a single. And he's like, fuck you.
That's
Like,
so nuts.
like no, watch this shit go ape on the charts. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it did. But you know, Computer Blue, Darling Nikki has its own story too. I mean, it's a nasty little, dirty little song.
I love that song. Man.
Yeah, I remember. Actually, you know what's funny is the first time I ever heard that song, like, because I the first time I'd ever heard that song was that like Dave Grohl did a cover of it. I don't know if anyone heard it.
I can kind of see it. Yeah, maybe.
It's not good.
Yeah.
But like, I remember
Okay.
listening to it, and like my dad, that was like my dad is a Foo Fighters head. He just loves. He's just it's such like, you know, Gen X like dad core, you know, like Foo Fighters. And he had it on, and it was and he was just like, damn, Dave Grohl. He's like, Dave Grohl covered this. Like, it's such a weird like the least like sexual dude of all time is Dave Grohl. Like you look at that guy, you're like, has it ever happened? Like, you know, no disrespect, but I don't know. I'm not really a big fan of him post COVID, but you know, just he has a cover of it. But then I remember listening, and then I remember getting the CD for when I used at Streetlight Records, and it was I heard this song and like Darling Nikki, I was like, how is he making the sounds of the chorus? Like, what is that? It sounds like somebody like crumpling something up. I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know how to like. Is that a guitar or a synth? I don't know what the distortion is. Like, I guess it's a guitar.
I think it's a guitar because it sounds like he's bending a string to me, but there's probably some crazy effect shit going on there.
Perhaps like what he's doing, and I know people have done this where they run like a guitar through like a synth, like how Brian Eno used to, like for like Brian, like when David Bowie's like low, the Berlin stuff, like a lot of that stuff is playing a guitar through like a synthesizer. It's almost what it sounds like to me. Beauty of Prince is that he's just not going to explain that to you ever, and you'll never know. And we shouldn't. Like it's fun to speculate. But it's a great song. Also, when you know his family history, you're kind of like, and this is an autobiographical album, you're like, oh, his mom showed him Playboys at 10. I wonder, you know.
Whoa, yeah.
Yeah, like interesting. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's just, but it's a damn good song. Like I love it, and its place in the movie is really funny too, where like nobody fucks with it. Like like he plays it, and everyone's like, "Boo, this sucks!" like imagine if you were at some Minnesota club and you heard that, and you're like, "Nah, I'm not fucking with it." Like, yeah, all right, but When Doves Cry, it's probably my favorite. Yeah. I mean, it's just
probably the best.
Yeah, it's
that's
probably
my first intro to Prince, and maybe
yeah.
I mean, it's so like whichever one of you said the tasteful minimalism. It's just, but it's just how he can find a groove and play a little lick that just a little riff that stays in your head, like three notes.
Oh, it's like, just too good. Yeah, too good. It's too good. Like you said, I Would Die for You is amazing. I'm not your lover. I'm not your friend, but I'm a secret third thing. As Big Mac would say. I love that. I know it's not the lyric, but it is like in meme format, basically like a secret third thing. It's great. You know, Purple Rain, the song.
Purple Rain.
I mean, the first time when I was a kid, it was good, but I didn't like have that like. I was always like, why is that everyone's like favorite song? I like when he like rocked out or was like, you know, making like upbeat stuff. But then I remember when he played it at the Super Bowl in 2007, and I was like, oh shit. Like this is an epic. This is like the song itself is like a 3-hour like war hero movie song. Like it's like one of those epics, like Doctor, or even like Dr. Zhivago, or like any of those like old classic, like Gone with the Wind. It's like that type of song. It's perfect. I mean, how do you beat it?
Like when we were talking about guitar stuff earlier, and like the Ernie Isley lineage and that type of thing, like this song, there's a couple points in it where in the solo at the end where instead of like shredding, he plays a riff that just is so simple, but it stays in your head, you know, and it's so like you can hum the guitar riff, and there's something really special to that, like guitar parts that can stick in your head like that. that
Yeah.
was just like growing up and playing guitar. I always try to like emulate those type of things because I never was good enough to shred, but there's you just, you find your position and like, learn to do
Yeah.
that well. But if you can learn to play things that people can, like, the biggest compliments I ever received playing guitar was like, oh, like, you did something that was melodic, or like it stuck in my head what you did there.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Do I care about this? Like, do I care about this after we're done? Like, when we're done, do like after you play it for me, is it still there? And
Yeah.
I feel like that like the da 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 da, like that thing is so
Yeah,
like
that's
climactic. The way
exactly.
it like wraps up this whole thing, like kind of carries you out into the end of it. It's like it's so smart to like shred a little bit and then end on that.
Exactly. It's basically like I don't know. It's just like people focus too much on like the purple aspect of it. Like I think it's just like, no, man, just throw it on, dude. Like just throw it on and like vibe out to it. Like you don't have to like worry about what it means. Like, yeah, it's an autobiographical kind of album, quasi. He calls it like kind of auto fiction, essentially, where it's like, yeah, some of it's true, some of it's not. But I just wanted to make, kind of his. He knew he was making like a magnum opus type thing. I mean, it's quite clear. I don't think you ever intend to like pour your heart out the way he does on this album and have it like not have it be one of your cult classic albums. Like, no, this was destined to be a hit. It has every element of a hit album that you want, and then stuff you didn't know you wanted, which is I think what sticks to your rib, unlike certain albums that were like, maybe big around this time. And he wanted to beat Michael. Like he plays down the rivalry between him and Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson is like incapable of having a rivalry with somebody. Like, I just don't think that's like that's not the way he like views the world, I don't think. But Prince was like, yo, I gotta beat Michael Jackson. Like, I gotta outsell him. I gotta, like, Thriller is like going crazy right now. I have to make my Thriller. I have to like knock him down a peg. Like, and it for 6 months it was number one. I mean, 6 months on the charts. I mean, think about a song that's popular for 6 months nowadays. It's like Lil Nas X, like Old Town Road. Like it's like the only. It has to be that level, but there has to be a TikTok element to it. There has to be this oversaturation of social media. And now Prince did have the video element to it, which we're going to talk about right now. But just this album, like, and this is an album. It's not a song. This is like the album that people just could not get enough of. It was on the radio. I always ask my parents, I'm like, how big was like this song? And they're just like, oh, you couldn't avoid it. Like, you could not avoid Purple Rain. Like, you you didn't want to. But like, my dad's not like the biggest fan. He's a respecter of it, but he's not like, that's just not his brand of music, like, at all. He's like the Sabbath, like Zeppelin kind of guy. But like, my mom is just like, yeah, how do you there's not a way a human being can put it on and just be like, I hate this album. Like, it just can't. I mean, maybe the oversaturation element of it at the time, but if you ask that same person now how they feel about it, they're probably like, ah, man, I didn't know what we had. I didn't know what we had was so good and so finite, back then.
Yeah.
So, gosh, the movie is something. Thank God for the music, because the music saves you every time you're like, oh man, what's happening here? I mean, it's charmingly corny. Like, you'll watch it, you'll laugh. There's a line that makes me laugh. I was saying it to myself in my house, like at the top of my lungs, and laughing like with tears in my eyes. And it's not meant to be that funny. But there's a part. The whole concept of the album is Prince is the kid. His name is not Prince. His name is the Kid, and the kid is waiting for his big
Blood
break.
Meridian or other.
Yeah, true. God, that is insane. Yeah, the fact that's a synchronicity that I was not expecting. But
the extended universe, dude.
Yeah. Just Cormac McCarthy's Purple Rain. Yeah. The kid is it's already an absurd concept because it's Prince not doing well at live, or like not having a smash hit, because he's not listening to his women bandmates who have a hit, but he won't listen because he's a control freak. It's kind of a commentary about how much of a control freak he is. Now, he didn't make any changes to that at any point in his career, but he's just like, hey, I noted, but there's one scene where the lady who, like, I don't know, she's like she's a bouncer, like some lady at the front of the club. She's got the blonde hair, and she goes, hey, I got something for you. And Prince goes, what is it, peanuts? and then he goes like that, and I was just like, and you could tell it was meant to be like the punch, like, okay, that's the funniest part of the scene, and I'm just like, oh man, like that's the dialogue you're dealing with. But at the time, basically Prince's music, Prince's look, and Apollonia carry the movie. You won't regret it.
Yeah, it's kind of just a sick music video.
Yeah,
That's
it's
probably the best way to look at it.
100%. Like his Morris Day is the actually epic, like runs the city musically. One of my favorite scenes is when they're trying to put like women artists on and they're playing a Sex Shooter by Apollonia and the girls are dancing like in the studio and he's like, that ain't sexy enough, and he's just like, I think that Morris Day is actually the best part of the I think actor in the movie. He's hilarious in it, especially because it's the whole irony. This Prince is really ironic in this movie because he's like, I made Morris Day, but like now Morris Day is going to be the superior, or at least the villain, superior villain in the movie. So that part's funny. It starts with "Let's Go Crazy" before you ever hear a line in the movie. Let's Go Crazy comes out, and apparently the kids lost it. I love it. He goes through a 7-minute Let's Go Crazy, burns down the club with a guitar solo, and everyone's like, I think he's losing it. Like, I don't think he's got it anymore, man. And then all of a sudden, to the credit, this is also an absolute killer song. Morris Day comes out to Jungle Love, which is a heat, an amazing bass line. Like, and I love when the guy comes out and shows him a big like Victorian mirror version of himself and he's dancing in it. Like, that's an amazing stage move, I think. That's a great song, but it's just, I do love the idea that the town gets up for that song but not Let's Go Crazy. They're like, nah, like, lame.
There's a lot of, you got to really suspend your disbelief.
It's I know it's charmingly funny, and if you love his catalog and his music, it's a must watch. You have to watch it. I mean, it's you can't skip it. Like, there's no way around it. It's part of the whole Prince canon. Like, I mean, it's probably the number one thing anybody ever, if you say Prince, the first person says Purple Rain or Chappelle Show, like, so it's just like, those are the two things people our age, like gravitate to if they're not into the catalog. But it is still quite fun. And like, when doves cry, it's like, when his life story, it's like kind of sad, the song, and like the part in the movie, like, it's actually like, wow, it's kind of sad. Like, but I do love the concept of going to a movie theater and seeing that movie and just having it be like a big party.
It would be fun as hell. Yeah.
You don't care about the dialogue. Who cares who's talking during the movie? You know what I mean? Like, it would be fun. Like, it would just be a fun event. Like, and just going like multiple times too, going like to see Purple Rain, like two weekends, like, and just having fun and then going somewhere after. I think that's Taylor Swift's doing it now. I guess she's the only person that can do something like that. But even then, it's playing at theaters, but most people are streaming it, I think. So it's not the same. So
I remember seeing it when I was a little kid. Like, the imagery was everywhere on like commercials and stuff. But I think I saw it on TV at some point, like a couple of years or like a year after. So I grew up in South America. I don't know if you knew that, but they would show a lot of movies. So they would just show like big movies on TV a lot of times, like not that long after down there. I don't know how they would get the rights to do that. But anyway, so I watched it on TV and I remember just that imagery, always like commercials, like, the Prince Purple Rain's about to be on, and thinking like, okay, this guy on the purple motorbike, that's so cool. like there's a real childish element to it, like things that kids would think are cool. I don't know, kind of how it always went. There's a definite part of Prince that's very like kind of childish, corny, funny.
Yeah,
and it kind of underlies a lot of his career. That's like interesting.
It's funny to watch. I just think it's funny. Like, I thought the same thing. Like, I watched Tom Brady play golf and like lose one time, like on TV, and I was like, damn, that's crazy. Like, he like lost to like a golf game to like Peyton Manning or something. Like, it was just a silly thing to watch. But it's like Prince is the same way when he's like acting. He's like not a natural actor. He's doesn't really look like he wants to do it either. Like, it doesn't look like something that comes natural to him. And it's funny to watch like somebody who's just, I don't know, like a virtuoso and just amazing and this iconic figure, like kind of just not like, not grasp it and not get it right. But it's funny.
He has that
Yeah.
little wry smile on his face a lot of the times.
Yeah, I know.
Like, what's
It's so
happening?
cute.
I
Yeah.
love the part where he rides off. He leaves the chick at the lake. I always thought that was so funny as a kid. Like, that's so cool.
For the song "Take Me With You." Yeah,
Look at that.
but I love that. Yeah, I love the you need to purify yourself in the waters of Lake Minnetonka. Then she gets like butt ass naked and jumps in the freezing water. He goes, "That's not Lake Minnetonka," and then rides off. But yeah,
It's like Dumb and Dumb. It's like a Dumb and Dumber scene.
yeah, and totally redeem yourself. Yeah, but yeah, yeah, that's great. It's Darling Nikki too. I got caught up in Dave Grohl. Tipper Gore wasn't a fan of that song. Tipper Gore. It's one of the reasons there's parental advisory stickers on albums is because of Darling Nikki. And she's on TV. There's an on TV interview of her like reading, like, I saw her in the hotel lobby masturbating to a magazine, like saying that, and she goes, "Is that something you want your kids to hear? I bought Purple Rain for me and my daughters to sing in the car." It's like, bro, you guys let that rip in the car. Why are you guys like, come on?
I bought the Purple Rain album for our 11-year-old, and I didn't know that Darling Nikki was on it, and I felt that it was inappropriate for her and her 8- and 6-year-old sister to hear a song describing a girl masturbating in a hotel lobby.
Man, first off, like, if she's that annoying, I would invent climate change if that was the thing. If she's gonna be that annoying, like you can't even listen to Prince in the car, I'd be like, well, I'm just gonna say the world's ending because my world's ending. So, yeah, at that point. So yeah, that's one of the reasons. I mean, very historic, very, very monumental album. So I can already tell you guys right now, we're gonna save Sign of the Times for it's part 2 because we're running long here. But we got 2 more to get to here in this thing. And meanwhile, we've got songs written for Susanna Hoff's band The Bangles, Manic Monday, which is funny that you don't know that's a Prince song until you hear that he wrote it, and then it immediately sounds like a Prince song for a woman. Like yeah. So it's kind of cool, like to know that. And he's producing for The Time. He is definitely working around the clock. Like he is doing that. But now there's a follow-up to this album that commercially was received. It sold relatively well, but like I think it's actually a really, 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 really good album. But like I can see why it doesn't matter what you release after Purple Rain. It's like people are going to be disappointed, like commercially speaking. But this album was fun. Like they consider it a psychedelic album, and I actually agree. Like it's very psychedelic, and it reminds me the album cover and the song. It reminds me of his version of a Beatles album. Just kind of like a late 60s Beatles album to me. It's called Around the World in a Day. One of my favorite songs on there is Paisley Park. It's where we're introduced to Paisley Park. I love that song. The music video is really crazy and psychedelic, and you get like these like bicycle bells on the snare. Like it's really cool. And then of course Raspberry Beret. I mean, that song, if it doesn't lift your mood up when you put it on, I mean, it is a perfect song. Like it is like you listen to it. The video's amazing. The video is like he's getting on stage, and it starts out with this kind of like shitty like intro that is going to become Raspberry Beret. It's not on the record, but it's just part of the video. It's like almost sounds like one of those like Irish like somebody like grinding weird on like a violin, like fiddle type music that's happening. And then he coughs. He's wearing a suit with clouds printed all over it, which I love the suit. It's one of my favorite Prince outfits is the cloud suit. It's actually pictured on the album cover too, if you look close enough. But he then all of a sudden he coughs. He goes and then all of a sudden dun, 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 and then everybody's just losing their mind in this stage. So thoughts on this album, guys? Yeah,
seeing Raspberry Beret live would have been like fucking magical. I bet, dude. Like just everyone would have been going fucking ballistic for that tune.
Artie Lang, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the great Artie Lang of the Howard Stern Show and his own one of Norm Macdonald's best friend. The guy was just a complete like junkie. Like, I mean, he's still alive. I always think he's dead because he should be, but
yeah, for sure.
Like no, like truly, like that guy's just no. I don't know how Prince is not alive. Like yeah, but maybe it's a weight thing. I don't know, but he's like the Artie Lang was like hammered at like some New Jersey show, like at like and he got tickets to go to see Prince. He's like kind of a fan, but he was like hammered in the front row, and he was like, "Play Raspberry Beret." And like Prince looked down and he's just like, "Are you fucking kidding me, dude?" Like, he did play it. He did play it though. Like he's like, "You're lucky it's on the set list, asshole." Like, you know, like I wasn't gonna do it. So other great tracks, Pop Life is awesome.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
That is like is beautiful. I love the like kind of like the bass to that. It's it again another song that sounds like it came out a little later than it did. It doesn't sound to me like 1985. It sounds to me like a early 90s kind of sound to it. Very prophetic. Yeah, it's a good album. I understand why people are a little bit disappointed, but his label should have been happy because they got one smash hit out of it. Raspberry Beret. So like I think the label's still happy. There's people have followed up with a lot worse stuff, commercially and sonically. I'll say.
I had a lot of fun getting in. Like, I never was into this album, when I was younger. It was kind of like, I'm not, but digging into it was a lot of fun in the last week. I really like Condition of the Heart. Like, I just think it's an incredible composition. But then I was really thinking of like in the order and thinking, okay, he did Purple Rain, and Purple Rain's like this, almost like he's exercising his demons. He's in his like, between being an adolescent and like becoming it's like very biographical the way the movie is, and he gets done, he exercises his demons in Purple Rain, right? And then this is like, I almost think of this going into Parade is like, it's Prince emerges the man, but this is like that in between stage where he's going through, I almost think of it like when you go through sort of like an initiatory experience or whatever, you're going through like a psychedelic dream trip in the point where you're like, the child is dying and the man is emerging, right? And this album is almost like that. It's like that in between where, and so much of the imagery of the album, like you said, he has a cloud suit, like everything's balloons, clouds, everything's dreamy. There's even a song called The Ladder, and he's talking about like everyone's like looking for a ladder to like, there's like ascent and descent.
That's a great song.
It's very like spiritual, the album. And it was kind of interesting to just think of it in that way.
Yeah, George Clinton, big fan of this album. George Clinton said it was his favorite so far in the album. Prince actually denies the Beatles' influence, which I think is bullshit. He's just like, oh, it's not. It's basically like what he said, and he's just like, oh, I just wanted to change my sound like Led Zeppelin did, which that's pretty sick. That's sick that he was like listening to Led Zeppelin. Not that it shocks me, but I just love the idea of that happening. Like watching him put on like physical graffiti on like, and just like, getting excited by it or something. That's just that's an image I will hold dear in my head if that were to have happened.
So we don't think of L.A., Nashville, all these hotspot New York places. Minneapolis gets it done too.
Minneapolis always been the bomb. You don't have to go outside of that.
Yeah, Paisley Park again. He's through the riches of Purple Rain, he's able to build basically his own fortress that he doesn't leave unless he's going to go play music a lot of times, or hang around in Minnesota, which he did a lot. It was cool. He would just hang out in Minnesota, and it meant a big thing to people in Minnesota. I went on r/Minneapolis, which, but I went on there, and they were like, what's the big deal? Like, how is like Prince received in Minneapolis? They said most people, I mean, obviously people love his music, but they're like, the coolest thing is they're like, he didn't just like go move to LA when he got famous. Yeah. Like he stayed in Minneapolis. Like he just stayed there. And it was cool. Like it was cool that we had like a guy, like just like, whoa, like this big, like almost like Wayne Manor, like Batman style thing. Like that was like hanging out and like in this, like, it's like we had our guy, like our like kind of like recluse guy in the town. He was always such a, he'd be going to like in the 90s, he'd be at like, and even up till his death, he'd be going to like Minnesota Timberwolves games and stuff, sitting up in the luxury box. Like I occasionally when I'd watch one of their games, like you'd see them like pan up to the luxury box and you'd just be sitting there like stone faced, like watching basketball. And yeah, it's just, I mean, it's really good. A lot of people just might go, oh, that's the Raspberry Beret album. And like, then, yeah, I mean, that's the best song on the album, but like there's a lot going on, and it's psychedelic and fun and experimental, but still has every bit of what you want from Prince. So we have Parade, which is unofficially kind of like a Under the Cherry Moon soundtrack, which I'll say this right now, not worth a watch.
It's pretty out there.
It's fucking bad, dude. It's like he's trying to do like a Fellini movie or something. Like maybe he is, like you said, Thomas. Like maybe he is like a movie head, because like it seems like it was like trying to do like a Fellini like 8.5 kind of thing, like, or like this like old like foreign film noir. Where he's like a kind of like a side dude to like these rich chicks that marry like gold that are like gold diggers, and like he like kind of sets up their husband. It's so bad, but the whole time you're like, well, Kiss is on this album, so like when does Kiss come in? It's like 20 seconds in this, like you get like 20 seconds of it, and then it's back to just like whatever. But definitely an album that is a little top heavy with Kiss. Kiss is a killer song. I mean, it's a lot of people came to that song later, like from our generation, from like Pretty Woman, right? Because doesn't she like sing that in the bathtub? Like that song got like even a second life from it. I think it's Pretty Woman or something like that, where she's like singing it when she's finally like living the dream or something. But it's a great that's just an all-time great Prince song. The rest of the album that's fine. I don't know, you can put it on and listen to it. It's this is to me what a bit of a misfire in the scope of Prince albums.
Yeah, by his standard, like it's definitely got songs on there that I still stand by. I really like Sometimes It Snows in April. That's a standout for me.
Yeah,
when he sings that by himself, stripped down, like if you hear like live versions of it, it'll make you cry, man. It is so good.
Yeah, I think that Sometimes It Snows in April shows a little like kind of what I was saying of it transitioning into like he's now like Parade starts and he's now like on a different. He's more grown up, and he's
totally
kind of thinking compositionally in a different way. Also, like the imagery, because I remember when this came out, when Kiss came out, and like that was like big video era then, and like the video was on all the time on TV, and it was just a new look. Like his hair is cut short, he's more slick looking, like he's wearing suits in that era, and it's just like it feels like he's just starting something new. Like he didn't quite have it yet, whatever the new thing was going to be, but he's like, I remember it at the time being like, this is really different. Like he looks really different. The whole vibe is very, very different from.
And then people like people love to pretend like they're like, oh, and this is like his gender bending phase. I'm like, no, he was always doing that, and it wasn't trying to make a political statement about gender either. Like, like anybody that does that, they do it for. They don't really do it for Prince, because like honestly, it doesn't work. Bowie, they do it because Bowie actually is. Yeah, he probably did play a little bit of both sides of the field, I think. Like there's always the things of Bowie, like getting caught messing around with Mick Jagger and stuff. Like there's always those like rumors and stuff where that could be the smoke that then creates the fire for people that love to find transgender heroes of the past. But with Prince, it's like, no, dude, first off, like to me, I've always viewed him as like like definitely not the current term of this, but like truly asexual. Like he could like reproduce on his own, like if he wanted to, like where he could like literally have sex with himself, like like a plant or something. Like he could, like I've always viewed him as that. So like when he does like the bare midriff and like high heels, I'm not like, I don't think he's like trying to be a chick. I think he's just like, I'm everything, like I just am like I am a creation of God, and like I'm all, because God never leaves his music, it never leaves his life or anything. He's a very, even before when he was away from the church, he was still a big time believer of God and all of that. And I always laugh when people retcon him as like some, oh, he's actually a pioneer of LGBT. No, he was not. It's not the case. I don't even think he agreed with you guys. Sorry. Like
I never knew it. I'm surprised that people think this is his, like he was way more gender bending when he was younger.
Exactly.
To me, this is the start of him being very masculine. Just because you're showing your midriff doesn't mean like you're not. I don't know. That's just how I
know. And the heels, the heels. They asked him too. Like they were like, "Do you wear heels to look like a girl?" And he was like, "Nah." He's like, "But girls always compliment it."
I think the heels were largely just because he was short as fuck.
Yeah, he's 5'2", man.
Yeah, dude. I think that's a lot of what it was.
He was Napoleonic, dude. He was extremely Napoleonic.
Most definitely.
Yeah, I think that when you said Napoleon had epilepsy, I was like, damn, is this dude like, is he Napoleon? Like, if reincarnation is real, is he Napoleon? Like, he might, like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm sure. How old was he? How old was he when Napoleon when he died? I swear to God, if he was 57, I'll be fucking onto something. 1769 to 1821. I don't think that's
pretty close.
I don't think that checks out. What is that? That's
52.
31. Yeah, man, almost, dude. Yeah. Well. Yeah, we got to that. So, well, guys, we won't do an extended outro because we're gonna do another episode in a couple days, but it'll all be one. So we're starting with Sign of the Times, which is look. If you think you caught the best of the episode, I've heard about all the albums I want to hear. You did not hear everything. So go on over to rarecandy.substack.com. We do free trials. So if you only want to sign up for that one, that's fine, I guess. But there's also just all sorts of other great stuff on there. So stick around. But you can go over there. That'll be the second half of the episode.